Hello, everyone, and welcome to our seasonal graphics to boost your sales this season webinar. I am Megan, and I do all of our educational webinars here at Team Edgar. We also have from our team, Maura and Tia, who are going to be manning the chat. So the chat, Natalie, thank you for saying good morning, is right over to the right of your screen. I would love just to know who is here and what industry you're in, just to get to know each other. One of our favorite things about doing webinars here at Team Edgar is to provide small businesses and solopreneurs a place to connect and network with each other. So go ahead and introduce yourself and make sure that you share handles if you see someone related to your industry so that we can all keep in touch and collaborate and support each other this holiday season. This is also your best bet for asking questions. Maura is our content director here at Team Edgar, so she is a wealth of information when it comes to social media strategies or anything Team Edgar related. So go ahead and make sure you ask questions throughout this webinar. Right over there, we will be sending the replay of this webinar out afterwards. If you do have to jump off early or if you miss anything at all, I will include the replay in an email afterwards. Just keep that in mind. So we're going to go ahead and dive right into some tips for creating graphics this holiday season. Like I mentioned, if you have questions throughout all of this, put them in the chat. If they don't get answered, I will do my best to go ahead and provide answers in the replay email that we do send out. All right, let's jump on in. So holiday seasons, isn't it so nice of the world and Hallmark calendar people and all of these holidays to create actual days that help us shift our messaging and have some fun social media posts that might be a little bit different than our normal ones out there. This is kind of the idea that holidays and social media can go hand in hand, is that we want to stick to our core messaging of what we sell, how we help, and who we help. But it gives us an opportunity to really highlight different benefits and different lifestyle outcomes that your product or service can give to people that you might not think about during the normal year. So I absolutely love these holidays in a way that we can sell a different promise that people might be thinking about in different areas of their life. For example, here at Team Edgar as a social media automation tool, we can talk about how it will save you time using a scheduling tool like Team Edgar throughout the whole year, but shifting our messages into what you're going to do with that time during the holiday season can be a little bit different because we're really going to highlight how you can spend that time making your pumpkin pie or doing your Hanukkah celebrations with your family and actually make sure that it is resonating with people's life of what's going on right now. So that is the power of making sure you're using these holidays and these seasonal events in your social media strategy and in your graphics. So when people see them, they resonate with exactly what's going on in their life and they say, yep, that is the lifestyle and outcome that I want. Maybe this product is the one to get me there, and it increases your chances of people clicking through on your content and becoming a part of your community. So social platforms really are there designed so that people keep scrolling, right? Facebook likes you to stay on Facebook and consume that content. This is one of the reasons that engagement on social media is one of the key factors that these networks pay attention to in order to know how much of your audience that post is going to get. If the post gets more engagement, like comments, likes, and shares, the algorithm says, okay, people like this content, they'll continue to consume it if we put it in their feed more, and it increases the chances that future posts you put out there will show up in your followers' feeds. Now, one of the things that really helps make sure that this content gets that double tap on Instagram or gets people to engage with it is having images. And that's because if we think about our consumer behavior, when we scroll through these social media accounts on our phone or on our laptops, it's often we're going so fast because we're just looking to be entertained between meetings or standing in line at the grocery store. And our brains can really process images a lot faster than they can by reading captions. So this is why we want to make sure that we're thinking hard about the images we put out there. For example, this right here is a post from BarkBox. I absolutely love BarkBox, having a little puppy myself. But if you were to see this in your feed, what is going to make you pay attention to this first? The image, right? You can see BarkBox has this image of a Thanksgiving feast in toy variety here. And that's going to be something that I'm going to stop saying, hey, wait a minute, does my dog need some Thanksgiving toys? Obviously, he doesn't need them, but you best bet they targeted the right person who wants to spoil their dog. And this image got me to actually stop and say, that would be cute to have him play with Thanksgiving toys, right? So again, this is what you want to be thinking about, is that the image is going to stop your scroll. So then I'm going to read the caption. So when you're thinking about making a post to sell something, ask yourself if you can create an image to go along with it. Visual content really is 40 times more likely to get shared on social media than any other type of content. This stat was found by HubSpot in a study that they did, and I want to make sure you're thinking about the importance of shareable content. Shareable content on social media is basically working the digital age word of mouth marketing. If someone shares a post from your social media account to their own, it's because they've identified something that they said, yes, this fits my lifestyle. Yes, this is exactly the values that I also have, and I want to share this with my followers. Or if you've identified something that they can share onto their own page with an image or a graphic that makes them laugh, that makes them have a feeling, it's much more likely that this is going to be something that their followers then pay attention to and your brand name is attached to it. This is what branding is amazing for. It's making sure people have a feeling that they associate with your brand. You know that one of the best companies who do this is Nike. The feeling that you get of just doing it, of going after your dreams, of you being an elite athlete is baked into everything they do. When you look at Nike social media, they are practically never selling. They are selling that feeling. So if you're someone being a little bit afraid to sell on social media, first of all, don't be afraid. Second of all, selling is not always about directly asking people to buy. Selling is about identifying a feeling people are having at this moment in their life and making sure your brand is going to be the one to support the feeling that they actually want. So why do your graphics really need to be focused on seasons and you can't just use the same ones all the time? Because of this resonating factor. And one of the best ways that I like to explain this is thinking about like a fitness or weight loss program. Perhaps you're someone, let's say, who's a personal trainer. When you're putting out sales to have people book sessions with you, let's talk about what you would do differently in the summer versus the winter. In the summertime, you're probably going to highlight bathing suit season. Let's get you beach ready. In the winter time, you're going to be thinking about things like people are going to holiday parties. They're probably eating and drinking more than they usually do in their daily lifestyle. So you wouldn't want to put an image of someone in a bathing suit on the beach in your graphics. You would want to put an image of making sure people either get that holiday weight off or make sure they fit into their outfit for their Zoom, socially distanced this year, holiday parties. So again, you need to really make sure that the seasons and the things that people are thinking about and how they differ really do appear in the images that you're putting out there. Karen, if you don't have any sound, refresh your browser. I do apologize for that. If someone could just put that in the chat for Karen, just realize saying that won't do anything. Awesome. So one of the other things that I really think so much, Kirby, there, that I really like about seasonal social media is that it goes back to some marketing fundamentals of urgency and scarcity. So urgency and scarcity are some of the things that really help people make decisions. This is sometimes seen as something that I think people get a little bit nervous to do because they're like, you know, I don't want to be a sleazy salesperson. But the reason that urgency and scarcity is important to think about when you're putting promotional posts out there is because you want to make sure that you're telling people, you know, if you want to get to this outcome in your life, this is what you're going to have to do right now to get someone to decide. And we all want to decide something. We're just bombarded with over 400 marketing messages a day. And if you're not directly helping someone decide and saying things like, hey, this promotion is only during this Thanksgiving holiday or something like that, grab it right away, it's likely that you're not going to actually be able to convince someone as well to purchase from you. So that's another reason seasonal content can work amazingly, is because that urgency and scarcity is baked right into the season. All right, so you really want to remember how powerful resonating is with people when you're creating your graphics. Some of the things that I really like people to think about are the cultural associations that people have with symbols. One of the strongest emotions that you can really help elicit in people is nostalgia. So think about way back in the day, what did people do during these holidays? What do people do now? What do people crave during this season? And build that anticipation and images in. You know how Starbucks has done this, right? I think this is one of the best examples of that pumpkin spice latte around this season. They are producing scarcity in the fact they only sell that pumpkin spice latte during those few months. I know it gets moved out months and months in advance these days, but that pumpkin spice latte is really getting people to purchase it a lot more because they know in a couple months it's going to be gone. And you want to remind people, remember how much you liked that last season? So these are the things to think about theming your social media seasonal content so you can use it year after year as well, and how your products can change throughout that. You're really going to be celebrating what's going on in people's lives so that they see your content and say, oh my gosh, I feel that too. All right, enough of the why. I have belabored why seasonal content is so important. We're going to go into the how of creating some graphics that go into really standing out on social media. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the tools you can use to create these graphics and look at some actual examples from brands on social media. So one of the first things that you can do for the how of making sure your seasonal content is thinking about revamping your logo or revamping your cover photos and profile photos on social media. This is something that can stand out quite a bit because it's basically your digital storefront. You know how storefronts rotate through their window displays per season. You can do the same thing for your profile photo and your cover image. So often we just get stuck in leaving our cover image how it is year round, and we forget that you can resonate a lot more and these small details do matter. Now, don't go shifting your logo a ton. You can see some brands here who have done this really well, that the main point of their logo and the main structure is still there, but it's done in a way that it's so seasonal. For us here at Edgar, we love putting a little Santa hat right on top of Meet Edgar's little octopus head, and that's all you need to do. We can then swap that into our profile photo. The good news about this here is you know that Facebook gives a pretty good reach to when people actually swap their profile photos out. So it's likely that that change will show up in your followers' feed, just giving your brand a little touch point, and it'll probably make people smile. Who doesn't love a Santa hat on any kind of logo, right? So the first step is thinking about ways you can really design your profiles as a destination in themselves to have a more seasonal feel. You always then want to make sure any activity you do on social media is linked to a goal and outcome. We don't want you just to go out there and start creating different content for that sake, and it just becomes something that's a time suck. You need to make sure every piece of content you're putting out there has a job to do. So before you get into creating these seasonal graphics, I want you to think about what your main goals are this season. Write down what you're going to do for each of your campaigns or each of your strategies, and ask yourself, is this a piece of content for conversions? If you're not linking what that content's job is to an outcome that you want in a measurable way, it's likely you're not going to know the success if something has worked or not, and you can't iterate that for the next season. So don't just go out and make graphics. Go out and make graphics that have a purpose. We really can't stress this enough, that you're really intentional while doing this to make sure the time you're spending coming up with new content can be used for the future, can really help provide that foundation level of what's resonating with your followers and what's not, and that every piece of content that shows up in your followers' feeds makes them really feel as if this is related in a really strong way to their actual goals. So these are just some of the questions that I really encourage you to think about before you start creating these graphics, to make sure they each have an intent behind them. And I'll send these slides out in the replay if you want to sit down and journal a little bit about this. I cannot stress enough how important it is to have the person who you're creating this for in mind in order for these graphics to really work. All right. Remember also that you're going to sell the future that people want to believe in more than the features that your product or service has. Think about their ultimate goals and dreams and find images that reflect that future. For that fitness lifestyle that we were talking about in the example before, you'd want to find images of people happy and confident because they have reached their body weight goals or they feel healthier. For Meet Edgar, we want to show images of people enjoying the holiday season rather than slaving away as a solopreneur on your business and social media content. Remember, it's not features and lists that actually sell products. It's gonna be that identity and lifestyle and the future lifestyle that your followers want. So this is another thing that I really recommend journaling before you go out and seek images to find for your graphics so that you're making sure that graphic is speaking to that future outcome your followers want. Another thing to think about while you're creating graphics, whether they are just text overlays on a background or actual images, is the psychology of color. Now, I know this can be a little bit nerdy here, but colors truly do evoke emotions. You want to really choose colors that match how your followers want to feel. These are some examples here. You can Google other like color psychology things. I do find it pretty fascinating actually. But if you want people, let's say, to feel really excited or feel really powerful in their decisions, consider doing red in some of the images you're finding. If you want people to really trust your brand and see your brand as stability, perhaps you're like a tax accountant or something, and you don't necessarily want to have people feeling creative, but you want people feeling stable, you could use more blues. These are things to think about that are really detail oriented that might make a big difference in how people feel about your brand. And remember, the feelings that we give people really do matter in their purchase power decisions. All right, so other things to think about, and I don't want you to go too crazy on these colors, is that you want to really think about having your brand colors still show up in every single social media post you put out there. This is super duper important because everything that you do on social media needs to really have people, again, quickly understand that it's from your brand. So don't go too crazy adding in too many colors. We recommend having 1 to 2 main colors and then 2 to 3 complementary colors on every graphic you create. You really also want to think about your fonts, keeping them consistent with your other content. No more than 3 fonts on any graphic that you create, because again, that's going to give the eyes a little too much to think about, and that's not going to be as effective as putting your message out there with just a couple of fonts. So just some things to think about there as you're deciding what graphics to create. And when you're designing, there's also a lot to think about here for what's the most important part of the graphic. Where do you want people's eyes to be drawn to? Is it your price that you're putting right on that graphic? Or is it that lifestyle image that you want to have people's eyes draw to? Really think about the one most important thing so that you're centering that on your graphic. Our eyes are always drawn to the largest element. So what is the most important part of this graphic? What is the job this piece of content has to do? Make that the biggest. This is known as kind of hierarchy in the design world. And it could be something like this. What catches your eye first? That New Year's Eve. So that NYE is something that's going to catch people's eyes. And if you don't have something going on New Year's, you're probably going to take a look at that and say, oh yeah, I want something to do on New Year's Eve. And then you can start reading the details a little bit more. So what do you want people to think about and catch your eye first? Make that the largest part of your graphic. Awesome. Another thing with design is the rule of thirds. So this is actually from photography mostly, but it can be used if you're graphic designing anywhere. And that is that you always want to cut your graphic and your image into 3 rows and 3 columns. This really does make sure that the focal point of what's most important that you're trying to get across is in that center where you see those dots right there. So what this looks like in real life is something like this image. Our eyes are drawn to those focal points in the rule of thirds. And this image actually wouldn't be as powerful if this little cape boy was right in the middle. So as you're designing, if you're putting, like I mentioned, little text overlays, or if you're putting like a photo of your face in there, look to where you can do it in these focal points there rather than right in the center. And it's a much more pleasing way that our brains like to process images. Awesome. All right. I also want you to remember here at Meet Edgar, being a social media automation tool, that we love for you to work smarter and not harder here. So that means when you're coming up with your content, that you stick to this idea of categorizing it. So make sure you're not going out there and feeling like you're actually having to make brand new graphics for everything. These templates can be set up to be used year round in different types of programs. You don't have to be a graphic designer to make templates or to use predetermined templates. One of my absolute favorite programs to do this with is a program called Stencil. If you want to check them out, it's getstencil.com. I'll send a coupon code in the replay email as well to get 25% off your Stencil membership. If you do want to try them out, they have some templates that can just be customized with your actual graphics and stuff that you can just use over and over again. This is really, really helpful because you're able then not to have to recreate the wheel. And each thing, like if you're doing a quotes category, quotes for social media, you already have a quotes template that you use year round. Now you just have to swap out the images and swap out the colors and stuff for what you want to do for this season. If you want to have a tips category that you share tips on social media, have some templates that you can just swap things in and out, and you don't have to feel like every single image is being recreated every single time. All right. Now remember, next, you want to make sure every single time you are putting content out there that you are nourishing and engaging your followers. So let's start simple. If you're someone who might be a little bit afraid to sell on social media at this time, especially the sales emails or sales posts that you're putting out there, and you don't feel like you want to start out right away putting seasonal sales posts out there, I want you to think about inviting your customers just to celebrate the season with you. This is really fun and actually has a really strong connection to how your sales posts are going to do. If you are someone who launches a lot on social media, or if you are someone who puts a lot of content out there on social media around your sales, I bet I can tell you how well those sales posts are going to do by the foundation you've led ahead of time and the conversations you've had with your followers. So create a category of posts. If you use Meet Edgar, our tool, you can create these seasonal categories right within the tool. If you don't use Meet Edgar, you can get a 7-day free trial by signing up to Meet Edgar to see how this works, or just jot down categories however you do this, and make sure that you're thinking about ways your followers are celebrating the season now and what type of conversation you can have with them. Ask questions about what's going on in their holiday season. Instagram stories is a great way of doing this. You can see this example right here is a fun one because you can actually just have people tap to have an answer or create a poll. And this is another way that you're just gaining more information about what people are doing this holiday season. And what are you going to do with the answers from their questions? You're going to take what's going on in their lives and create graphics that showcase that, because that's what resonating on social media means, is that people see themselves in the images that you're putting out there. Awesome. So this really helps as well if you're thinking about something that the art of charm says to do to get really deep connections with people. And if you're going to get deep connections with people on social media, you need to think about these 3 things. And these are excellent questions to start asking your community. Things like, what's your favorite memory of a holiday? And share your own. What's your company's favorite memory of a holiday? Stuff like this goes back again to that emotion of nostalgia that really helps develop strong connections with people when you think about their past and you're oriented in people's origin story. We love to know where people come from. So share that with your followers and ask what their favorite holiday memory is. People also love to speak about themselves and talk in that way. Then go on to the present. Ask people what they're doing this holiday season and share some photos of what you're doing this holiday season. Last, ask people what their hopes and dreams are for next year and future holiday seasons. If you can get these 3 different times to really show and really make sure that you are putting content out there about yourself and you are asking your followers that, this is scientifically, personality proven to create deeper connections with people when you can really orient them in the past, present, and future. So think about your questions that way. Again, you can see these are really simple things that you can go ahead and get a little bit open and vulnerable about with your community and ask back. All right, so let's go into some examples and actually look at some graphics that you can create. You'll notice that I've broken these up again into different categories. This is really important to keep the category structure system of your social media so that you're not just putting out sale after sale for the seasons, but you're putting out really intentional postings that are going to create an exciting feed that you can rotate through different categories. So the first category you want to think about is product demos. People don't like to purchase things that they haven't seen or haven't actually used before. And doing it online can just be like, I don't want to purchase just from a screen, right? So you need to show people what they're going to get. That's why like unboxing videos on YouTube are so popular, because human nature is we want to see what we're going to buy before we buy it. So think about really great ways that you can take your core offerings and actually bring them to the seasonal time. So right here, I love this example from Bagel Bites here. And they say, either way, they are definitely tangled. What a great way to bring in that tangled holiday lights vibe that you know you go through every single year when you pull those out of the basement onto social media. They are resonating with a shared experience that a lot of us go through this time of year. So I would love just to have you guys participate in the chat right now, and we're going to give away one $25 gift card to someone. I'm going to close my eyes, and the first answer that I see will get the gift card. But I would love to hear what you guys think a shared experience that your followers go through this holiday season is that you could bring into your social copy. So I'm going to count to 5 and pick a name. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The first one I see is Diane. Diane, go ahead and email Megan@meetedgar.com, or I will find your email from the registration link for that $25 gift card there. I love these answered. Yeah. Hanging holly, holiday arguments, get prepped for the holidays, getting cold. These are all great. So these are shared experiences that people are having right now that you can think about taking these shared experiences and relating them to your product somehow. How the heck does a bagel and holiday lights have anything to do with each other? Not that much, but this truly does work, right? Multicolored lights, white lights together, there you get a bagel bite. So think about the ways that you can actually use this. Another product demo is, this is from Paperbell, which is actually Meet Edgar's sister company. That is a scheduling tool software for coaches. And you can see how they've actually gone in there and screenshotted part of their app so that people who haven't used the application before can get an idea of what it looks like on the inside. We've all been there, thought about a new software and getting it, but being like, oh my gosh, my past experience with this other software wasn't great. It wasn't user-friendly or super intuitive. So I'm a little nervous to buy another software. This gets rid of that fear for people because you can just see what it's going to look like on the inside. And you can see they've just simply screenshotted this, put it on a background in a program such as Stencil, where you can actually then go in and write out these different ways of getting that, getting the features highlighted. So you can do this if you have a product or a service or a software company very easily. And this is a great thing to make sure that you're showing your product demos. All right, so last but not least, again, this is just another example of how you can do this with a product rather than doing it with like a software company. These are so simple to create. And when you're doing this and creating these graphics, think about that color psychology, what you can add in here. Think about your branding and use this template that you can use any time of year to rotate through product demos. This is an excellent piece of evergreen content that you can put out online, something that you can share not only during the holiday season, but use as a template to customize for any season, because you always want to be showing people how your product works. You can see this isn't necessarily a salesy post either, but it's laying the foundation so that when you go to sell to people, they feel confident and excited to purchase. All right, Also, make sure you think about how people are using your products this time of year. That might be a little bit different. So you can see this is from Diet Coke's Twitter account, and they say grabbing a Diet Coke and hitting 500 stores, BRB, because Santa is a second job. You know, a lot of parents out there can relate to this. They are cooking holiday meals. They are taking their kids around to holiday parties, socially distanced holiday parties, and they're still having to go and find secret ways of purchasing presents. So they probably need a little extra caffeine there, right? So again, their core offering of Diet Coke being a great beverage to give you that caffeine is still here, but they've actually taken that to customize it to what's going on in people's lives now. All right, behind the scenes content. This is another category that we know works incredibly well on social media, and you can make sure that your holiday photos and your holiday graphics really still stay in that rotation. So when I talk about categorizing your social media, you're going to send out like a product update or product demo category post, and then you don't want every other post the rest of the week also just to be product demos, right? You want to rotate through different types of posts to create a community who's excited to see a well-rounded view of your company. So you could send a product demo in the morning one day and then perhaps do behind the scenes content in the afternoon. So again, you're just rotating through these categories in a systemized way. So behind the scenes content here. Stu McLaren does this really great, I think, on Twitter especially. Twitter is not something that people do graphics for all the time, but if you scroll through Twitter, you bet that you're going to stop your scroll if you saw this rather than just the question above it. And it gives a really good reminder that there is a person behind the brand. So Stu McLaren runs a membership group, and you can see here, is just asking people about their problems, what problems you're solving. Having this clarity actually helps his members quite a bit. And having this clarity is actually something that people are going to be grateful for if they answer this question to themselves. But again, it also lets him develop a relationship with his followers in a way that he knows exactly what they're working on. I also love this photo. Again, this graphic is so incredibly simple and it shows his face. If you're someone who hasn't shown your face in a while, actually consider doing this on social media because it does build what we call know, like, and trust in a way that is far stronger and gets far more engagement than just simply screenshotting your product. Remember, this is the importance of categories, because I'm not saying don't screenshot your product, don't show your logo. No, you need to do that, absolutely. But you also need to show your face once in a while. So graphics can be as simple as this photo to catch our eyes. If you're not brave enough to make a funny face that's going to make people say, what? Like this one here with Stu McLaren, you could do just a simple smile. But I'd also love you to notice how this does take advantage of that rule of thirds that we talked about in the beginning. You can see how he's not directly in the middle of this photo. He's a little off to the side. This does really make it more pleasing for your eye, even if you don't notice it. Your brain, in that weird way that it processes images, does like seeing this off-centered a little bit more. This is another really great behind the scenes opportunity that holidays give us. You can see this is from LinkedIn, the Port of San Diego. Obviously not this year, but in the past has dressed up in their holiday costumes in a group like this, and they go ahead and put that on their social media. So if your community, if your team right now is having a fun like Zoom call where you dressed up for Halloween, screenshot that and put it on social media. This really works to lay the foundation for your sales, because when people know who's actually making their products and they know the hard work going into it, this is really, really important for actually having people say, okay, this is really great. I'm going to go ahead and know there's a lot of hard work going into the products or services that are being made here. Again, it just opens up your brand to seem a lot more human as well. So think about the ways that your graphics can just be so simple that you can put it out there and make sure that people are seeing your faces. All right, so another category you can think about is using numbers and statistics and tips. Again, if you just put tip after tip or stat after stat out on social media, people are going to get bored. But if you rotate through these categories we're talking about, people are going to be much more likely to love all of the content that you're putting out there. All right, so research the holidays and research numbers that resonate with your followers. What this could look like on social media is this post here goes ahead and says 70% of Americans say they celebrate Halloween. Discover how the latest poll looks on American perceptions about the holiday. Now, this is a data company, so they've researched some numbers and they've actually gone ahead and made a graphic that makes it really fun for people to want to click through on this, right? 88% of parents say they eat their children's Halloween candy. How many parents out there are going to laugh at this and be like, yep, me too, and want to click through and learn some more fun statistics, right? All right, so make sure that you're really going out there and taking advantage of these holiday statistics that are available. And the more that you can make sure that numbers appear in your graphics, the better, because on social media, people are there to be educated and to learn things. And our brains really like the fact that numbers relate to learning quite a bit. All right, so another thing that you can do is promotions. So promotions on social media are something that I know a lot of us like to shy away from sometimes because we get a little bit nervous about selling what we're creating. It's just human nature. But as a small business owner and solopreneur, I want to give you the confidence that you're doing people a favor when you're selling to them, because you are enrolling them into reaching their hopes and dreams with the products or services that you created. So a promotional post on social media doesn't have to be a complicated graphic. You can see this one is from the software Intercom, and this is so great because it provides transparency in pricing. Now, we've been taught a lot in society to shy away from talking about money, but think about your own habits when you're going to buy some software or purchase something. You just want to know the price. So this graphic works really well because A, it goes ahead and just puts a simple pricing out there, and B, it has that really great call to action of that accept button. So you can see this is obviously a graphic that they just created. That accept button isn't real, but you can see that accept button signals something to your brain as a call to action to say, yeah, I want to accept that 10% discount off of this pro plan. And this graphic is something anyone can do. Again, you can create things like this in programs like Stencil or any other graphic design program that you go out there and you just put some elements on a background like this. You can see they just created 3 different rectangles and layered them on each other. This layering gives an actual signal to our eye that this is a clickable button, and that clickable button has the call to action there right away. So think about the ways for your promotional post that you can be really transparent in your pricing and have a call to action there that might not be a normal just kind of click here wording in the status update, but you can convey that call to action in the actual graphic. Cool. All right, so another thing here, another example here is from New York Times. So this graphic, again, super simple, anyone could create it. Now you might be thinking this is just a graphic with some words on it, but think what these words are actually doing. The New York Times brand and the feeling that you want from them isn't one that's necessarily showing photos all the time. They're newspaper and they're print oriented. So this does actually match their brand that they're going for. It's no nonsense. It really resonates with the news that's going on now. You can see the text overlays on this really resonate with stuff that's actually going on right now that people actually want to learn about. And they're clear and transparent in their offer down below. This is something that your brand could simply do as well. Think about what's going on in people's lives, put some text overlay there, and then have a clear and transparent offer at the end. Obviously, if you want to add a graphic into this, if that matches your brand better, you could do that. But think about the feelings you want people to have. They want people to have that they're kept up to date on the news, stuff like that. So they put that right there with the clear call to action. All right, social proof. Holy moly, this is one of the best ways to sell on social media. It's right in the name right there. And that is that you need to make sure that people are seeing other people's success from using your product or service. No one wants to buy something that they're not sure works. So if you have great testimonials from people, make sure you're putting those right in your graphics. You can see here the productivity app Asana has put right in their graphic a quote from one of their customers, Stacy. We cut our production time down by 50% with Asana. from Stacy here. So what is it, those core benefits that your features go ahead and have people be able to do, like cut down on their productivity time here? Asana wants to make sure that the brand message they're getting out there is that they are an app that helps you be productive. They have a quote from someone who's had success being productive with their product. So why not use that in your graphic? So go out and actually seek from your customers some quotes about why they love your product or service. This is one of the best ways to make sure that people feel confident that they're going to get the outcome that they want. Social proof and testimonials are some of the best ways that you can make sure you're creating a community. So I know you're asking how frequently to post them here, Jalen. That's going to be different for everyone, but social proof, I would go ahead and put into what's called value adding content rather than strictly promotional content. And here at Meet Edgar, our belief is that 80% of your content you're putting out there should be value adding content. 20% is a little more promotional here. So I would actually say social proof is helping your followers see the value in your product or service. So lump that into your categories that are going to be sent out 80% of the time and cycle through. Now, these numbers aren't fast and furious, the one and only way to do social media. And sometimes if we're in the middle of a launch or like the seasonal times on Black Friday, we're going to have 80% of our posts perhaps be really sale oriented and 20% maybe be a little more valuable. So of course it's going to always switch on and off, but I would definitely make sure you're rotating through social proof at least a couple of times a week. Some of the things that really stop us from doing this, I think, are that we always think, oh my gosh, I'm putting so much content out there, because you see everything you put out there, but your followers don't see everything you put out there on social media. Only about 10% of the people who follow you are going to see the posts you're putting out there, and that's even a generous number. So make sure you do share these social proof posts a couple of times a week to make sure they're showing up in people's feeds. All right, more social proof here from lead pages. You can see in this graphic, they put that 7 million number, I'm really bad with numbers, sorry, 7 million leads that their software has helped their entire community capture. So if you have statistics like this on your entire community, for example, here at Meet Edgar, we could find a statistic for how many social media posts Edgar has sent out for our entire community, and go ahead and put that number on a graphic, because it's probably a pretty big one. And whenever you see a number this big, right, your eyes are going to be like, wait a minute, what are they talking about? That's a lot. And you're going to see that social proof of how often people are seeing results that you want. So go ahead and think about, for your community, what these things are. What actually do people care about? And can you relate that back to numbers and put that big, impressive number front and center? Remember when we talked about hierarchy, your eye goes to the biggest thing on the graphic first. So make that impressive number the biggest thing on the graphic. Your eye will go right there. You'll capture people's attention. Then they'll spend time reading the caption. The image is there to capture our attention quickly. The caption is there to logically make sure that people are knowing if your product or service is right for them and they want to purchase from you. Simplicity can be incredibly effective in your graphics. Again, transparency and pricing, I'm really going to encourage you to put that out there as something that your followers really would love to see. So if you are offering a discount this holiday season, use that hierarchy rule, put that discount front and center. This is an incredibly simple graphic, but if you see 20% off on something related to a brand you want, you're probably going to stop your scroll so that you can really get that discount. If you are a new brand or service just starting out, I really love the way that Heap has compared this to something that already exists. And you don't have to be new, but if you're not super well known across the world, like how Coca-Cola is, think about what you can go in and relate your product or service to that people do know. So if you don't know what Heap is and you read this, you say, what if Google Analytics was built in 2017? Heap is analytics for SaaS apps. So think of something your product can be related to and go ahead and put that out there so that people know exactly who you are if you're doing more brand awareness campaigns on social media. All right, so if you are really looking for ways to sell to people, make sure that you have pain points showing up in your graphics. So the reason that pain points are really important is because as humans, our nature is to avoid pain rather than seek out pleasure a lot more. So that means that people, if we're like, for me, Edgar as a social media automation tool, we want to really call out the pain of having to create social media status updates on the fly and post them to every single network, logging in and out every single day, and how much time that is wasting for you, more than the joy of being systemized sometimes. Of course, we want to be a brand who's joyful, so we want to point those good things out to you. But think about the headaches and pain points people have and make sure that those show up in your graphics, because again, as human nature, we're more motivated to avoid pain than seek pleasure a lot of the times. You also can think of ways to pre-qualify your leads in your graphics. So why pre-qualifying is so important is because you want to make sure everyone who's going to your sales page and stuff has already opted in and said yes to you a couple of times before they're there. If someone has said yes to a question that you've asked on social media, like you can see on this post here from lead pages, they're asking, is list building a priority for you? If you see this and you say yes, and then you click through to go to their actual sales page, you've already said yes to that brand once. This again is just a really weird psychological thing our brains do. It's more likely you'll say yes again to that brand. So if we've said yes once, it's more likely we'll say yes again once we get to that page. So think about questions that you can ask to kind of pre-qualify people to know if it's going to be a good thing to click through on. So for me, Edgar, we could say, are you tired of having to post to social media every single day? If you say yes to us for that one question on social media, if you click through to our sales page, it's more likely you're going to say yes again. All right. So if you are someone, this goes back to what we were kind of talking about before, who runs a product or service that perhaps someone has tried before. So maybe someone has tried a different social media automation tool and it just didn't give them the results they want. They're going to be a little more skeptical to try ours, right? So in your graphic, you can grab people's eyes by having people really understand how you're different. Really highlight how you're really different from others right in the graphic, just in case someone in your following has tried a service or a product like yours before and it didn't give them the results that they wanted. How is yours different? How did you make this specifically for that one person? So I love how Drift, which is a chat service, did this right here by just strictly calling out, this isn't your traditional live chat. So if you've tried it before, we're different. This is going to catch your eye maybe and say, oh, okay, I have tried it before. I like the concept of live chat, but I didn't like the program that I actually used, right? So these things are really important to think about as you're starting to create that content. All right, so another one here. Actually, Megan, I'm going to go right into that after this slide. So great question right there. I'll talk about tools in a second here. But this is our last example here. And this, again, is just making sure that you're putting transparency in your pricing to boost your holiday sales with stunning graphics this holiday season. So if you're doing markdowns, I really would encourage you to create graphics that not only have that like 50% off or 20% off that we saw in some previous examples, like that simple graphic from HubSpot, but an actual price markdown as well. People's brains go ahead and process numbers quite a bit differently. So I love how Thrive Market went ahead and did this here. They just have what the price normally was in that little bubble with a crossed out. This is incredibly simple to just cross that out and put the new price there. So think about how you can do that right on the graphic, again, so that people don't actually miss your price markdown in the status update text, because the graphic right there is calling it out and our eye will go to that right away. Awesome. All right, so tools to help you actually create these graphics. Lori, you read my mind right there. Thank you so much for being helpful there, Lori. You actually get the second $25 gift card for that help. I really appreciate that. And you are right. Pixabay and Unsplash are two of my favorites as well. So for actually creating the graphics, like I mentioned before, I absolutely love Stencil. They're so easy to use. They've got a lot of great features. You don't have to be a graphic designer. They've got a lot of templates there. It's getstencil.com if you want to get 25% off. Any of their plans, they've got a couple different plans. You can use the code EDGAR25, and I'll send that in the replay email as well. Free images. Free images are things like Unsplash, Pexels, and Pixabay. you can just go to these sites and actually type in whatever you'd like to see. So if you want to see like Christmas holiday cookies or Hanukkah lights or, beach scene, you can just type in those keywords and it'll go ahead and give you images. They're all created by freelancer photographers who upload their images to these sites. So it's also an awesome thing to do this holiday season by paying it forward. These are free sites, but you can also donate to these artists who are putting their images up there if you'd like to spread the cheer around. But these are my absolute favorites for finding graphics, and they do really have a ton of different categories. So check those out. Last but not least, Meet Edgar. So we are a social media automation tool. If you're someone who's starting to create stunning graphics and you want a way to send them out this holiday season without actually having to go again onto each and every platform, our tool is set up in an evergreen category rotation to send your social status updates, but we have a lot of holiday features that make it incredibly easy. If you're not an Edgar user yet, go ahead and sign up for your 7-day free trial. Everyone gets 7 days free. We also have the 30-day money back guarantee. So after that 7 days, if you keep going with Edgar and you decide it's not for you, no worries, 30 days, no questions asked, we'll refund you. But I would recommend you get on now, because if you get your account now, Edgar will be sending out emails for our Black Friday deals only to our members who have an account. Okay, awesome. So as I was mentioning, we do have a lot of features in Meet Edgar that are helpful for holiday graphics that I'll go ahead and show you now real quick, just so you have an understanding of what to do when you get in there. When you're creating these graphics in Meet Edgar, it's just Edgar25, Jalen, for that stencil code there. Thanks, Maura. Okay, so when you're in Meet Edgar. Oh, Diane, you just made my day. Thank you so much for saying that. So in Meet Edgar, this is what the inside of our tool looks like. So when you're adding your graphics to Meet Edgar, you're going to click on this Add New Content button right up here. Right down here is where you can select a graphic from your computer. So you can see you can just click into this area, select a graphic that you've downloaded, say from the internet, click on Choose, and that'll go ahead and have a graphic there. You're always assigning where this post can go out right over here. And then these categories are the categories you've set up that we were talking about during the webinar. So we like to rotate through categories here at Meet Edgar, and we'll look at how that looks like on the schedule in a second here. But you can create categories for the holidays, holiday promotion, stuff like that. And the content you're adding now to these categories will always be stored in your library so you can use them the following season. We are all about not having to recreate the wheel here at Meet Edgar, so you can progress in your business and not feel like you're just doing the same things over and over again. So you'll write your post, you'll go ahead and save it to a category this way, and you'll save it to our library. So the library in Edgar, again, everything you add to Meet Edgar will always remain in the library. Everything in here will be able to be used the following season if you want. Your library just stores all of the posts you have. From there, if you've made a category, I should have showed you this first, but let me pop here. This is our categories tab. You can add categories that you want here. So if you're creating seasonal categories, you can just name it like winter promotions. You can add all of your content to that winter promotions category ahead of time so that you're doing this now and not during the actual holiday season, so you can enjoy that time off. Once the holiday season that you'd like these posts to rotate through comes along, you'll pop over to your schedule tab right here. The schedule in Meet Edgar is a 1-week view, but this will repeat over and over again. So you can set this up now and have your seasonal posts run throughout the whole season without you having to worry about going into social. Setting up a time slot is as easy as clicking into that area. Again, you always give permission of where these can go over here on the left. You're then going to select what type of post this is. So let's say I've loaded up all of my wintertime posts ahead of time in the spring, and now it's time to send them. I'm just going to pop this category onto my schedule. Edgar will then work every Sunday at 8 a.m. He'll pull posts from that category that you've added to the library, and he'll send them out in a last in, first out rotation. So this category can now stay on your schedule for this winter season and send out all of those updates. Once this season is over and you're like, no longer want to show my images of snowflakes and holiday lights, You'll pop into this category on your schedule. You can find all of your time slots that are in that category from this drop down right here. So I can say filter my schedule to show me all of the winter time slots. I'm just going to come on in here, delete my wintertime categories. They'll be removed from my schedule. So those posts will just remain in my library, but they won't send out until I put that category back on my schedule. So this is how you run seasonal campaigns in Meet Edgar. And I will go ahead and send out the instructions in the replay of how to do that as well. Again, running seasonal campaigns is the best way to resonate with your followers. There is a second way of scheduling in Edgar. So that weekly repeating schedule is good for your evergreen content that you want to do in a way that Edgar is pulling from the library, the content you've added there, but it doesn't necessarily matter what specific content goes out on a specific day. You just have those good categories set up so you know you're getting a variety of content. If you have a post that you want to go out, let's say like a Happy New Year's Day post that you're like, hey, I need this to go out on New Year's, we've got you back for that too with our manually scheduled content. So for that, I click to add new content and I just check off the accounts where I'd like this to go. I write my Happy New Year's Day post here. I go ahead and attach my graphic that I've made with all the tips from this holiday graphics webinar. And then rather than just clicking to save it to my library, I use this drop down arrow and I click schedule, send and save. From this, you can see an actual text box pops up where I can put a specific day and time that I'd like this post to go out. If this is populated with a day and time right here, Edgar holds this post until this day and time is reached, at which point he's going to send it out to whatever accounts are attached over here on the left. If this is a holiday post that you'd like to only go out one time, make sure under advanced settings, you mark it as a use once post, and you'll know when Edgar goes ahead and sends it out on that day and time, he'll go ahead and expire it so it won't go back into that evergreen rotation. Expired content does still live in your library, so you can always find it for the next season, put a new day and time in there, and have that content go out. All right, guys, so there was an amazing amount of information shared. I know a lot of you said that we were going really fast and stuff like that. I do have a tendency to talk fast, so I'll send out the replay, but please know if you have any specific questions about this stuff, I run our inbox here at Meet Edgar as well, and I'd love to hear from you. So if you have feedback about this webinar, or if you have questions that weren't answered in today's session, please email support@meetedgar.com. I will be in the inbox the rest of the day today, and I'd absolutely love to hear from you. Cool. And let me know too, if you guys have any other ideas for future webinars. We are starting to book out our 2021 Crazy to Talk About sessions now, and we love feedback from the community on topics that are helpful for you about social media and what we can really do to help small business owners be successful and get your mission and your message out to the people who need it in the world on social media. Awesome. So guys, go ahead and email me, go ahead and join our future webinars to hang out with other small business owners. This has been a blast. Thank you, Maura, and thank you, Tia, for helping with the chat today too. I hope you guys have a wonderful holiday season. This is absolutely one of my favorite things to hang out with small business owners. So really, thanks for being here today, guys. I'll see you next time.